What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and it's time for part 3 of my Super Nintendo collection. Alright, so this is the final part of my loose collection of Super Nintendo games, and then all I have left is the box ones. First up, we've got Robo Trek. I think this is a repro, but I have played this game twice. From what I understand, it's really not that long, but it's like I've tried to get through it, and I don't hate it or anything. I think my biggest gripe with it is, like, I love RPGs where you have a party of characters, and you're using those parties to, use their different abilities and complement each other and, do your adventure and all that stuff. And I thought that was going to be this. It is to a certain extent. When I describe it, it's like it sounds way cooler than it actually is in practice. You are an inventor, and you make robots, and you can actually design robots how you want to, and create your party of robots that go into battle. And it's like turn-based combat, and so like you can have robots that are balanced, you can have robots that focus on attack, you can have robots that focus on defense, etc. And you kind of like decide what their stats are as you create them and stuff, and you make your party based on that. Problem is, I think that sounds so cool, but then you can only use one at a time in battle. And turn-based combat with one character is just not great for me. I'm just not a fan of it. Dragon Warrior 1, that's the biggest reason that game is like, I think it's a classic and it's a wonderful game. But that was the one thing that was missing for me. I was like, I'm only using one character. This sucks. I like having these other options, these other characters, so I can, do combos between the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and like actually have them team up and feel like I'm controlling a whole group of friends and that kind of thing. And I think it's just the combat just wears me. And oh my god, the combat music is god awful. It is terrible. If you want to just make your ears bleed, because why wouldn't you? Go listen to Robo Trek's combat music, and you'll just be like, oh god, I could not. Because I'm somebody who likes to grind in these older RPGs, and doing that in this was, I just had to turn my sound off and like listen to other stuff while it was happening, because the combat music is terrible. So not a bad game. I would like to finish it at some point, and I absolutely plan to. It's tough to get through. Like I said, it's supposedly not that long, so I don't know. But Robo Trek. Next up, a game that I kick myself for not just getting 10 copies of these things, because I remember seeing this stack of boxes in Best Buy, but I was happy that my mom bought me one, because they were $20 a piece at the time, and they are not $20 now, and that is Earthbound. I would love to get the box back and get a complete copy of this. I still have the guide. The guide is ripped to shreds, but I still have it, and I still have the game, obviously. We've done a full episode on Pixel Perspective on this, so go check that out if you want to hear me talk a little more in depth about Earthbound. But Earthbound is just such a fantastic freaking game. I wish they would bring this to the Switch too. It's so frustrating that they were like, oh, let's bring these this is a perfect example. They brought it to the Wii U along with Earthbound Beginnings. Nobody bought the Wii U, man. Just put it on the new one. Everybody's buying the Switch. Why don't you do that? You get more people getting into your game. I don't understand it. I don't understand the mentality behind that. That's a whole other video that I'm not going to get into right now. I love you, Nintendo. I do, but your decisions sometimes. Earthbound is a fantastic game. It's so good, and I played the hell out of this when I got it. I went over to my buddy's house. I'd never heard of it. he had gotten it the day before, and when I went over there, it was like around noon. He had been up all night playing it and hadn't been to bed yet, and he was on his second playthrough. He just loved it that much. He's like, I don't even like RPGs, but this game has blown me away, and I love it, and I've already been through it once. So this is one of those that I wish they would do more with, and I would love to see something happen with just the Mother series in general in the future at some point. Even if it's just like, you know, release a collection like they did with the collection of Mana. That would be so cool if you like did a collection of the Mother games on just like a cartridge or something like that for the Switch. Give it some nice box art, and you've got Mother 1, 2, and 3, and it's like, that would just be so cool. And it's so frustrating that they haven't done anything like that, or even just put it on the Switch in general. But it is on the 3DS, and a lot of people have a 3DS, so I can't recommend Earthbound enough, for sure. Check it out. Like I said, Pixel Perspective, we did a whole episode on it. Good stuff. Next is a ROM hack, and that is just because I saw it on Etsy years ago. I haven't played it, I don't know anything about it, but I was like, hey man, that's my favorite game of all time, and they changed a bunch of the characters and the text and some of the gameplay elements and whatnot, and sure, I'll give it a shot at some point. And that is Final Fantasy VI, Return of the Dark Sorcerer. Other than that, it's a ROM hack. I have not played it yet. I definitely will at some point, because I want to. I actually have another one that is boxed, not this specific one, but another ROM hack of 6 that's boxed, that I'll show you in the next video. But I am definitely looking forward to checking this out at some point. If you've played any of the, I'm curious as to what people's opinions are on ROM hacks. If there are any good ones out there, or if you played this one, or you know any others, let me know. I'm curious about that. Next is a game that I want to beat this game so bad, but I know it's going to be such a chore. I know it's going to be so tough to get through. And if you know anything about Super Nintendo RPGs, you'll know this right away, and that is the Seventh Saga. This game is so grindy and so tough. I have played it several times and barely made any progress at all, because even just getting out of the gate is really, really tough unless you know exactly what you're doing and you have tons of patience. It's so grindy, and things can kill you in half a heartbeat right from the beginning of the game. But I've actually seen the ending, because the first time I saw this game was a friend of mine was showing it to me, and he was at the very end, and he was like fighting the end boss. He was so overpowered and just beat the crap out of him, and then he just hands me the controller. He goes, "You want to kill him?" And I was like, "What?" He goes, "You just push the A button, you'll kill him." I was like, "Oh, okay." Did it. Beat the end boss. So no, I definitely want to play this at some point. I definitely will. But again, it's one of those where I definitely have to be mentally prepared, because man, it's a whopper of a game. That's for sure. Next up, the only RPG that I ever sold back to GameStop, and then I bought it back years later because I felt really bad about it, and that is Breath of Fire. I love Breath of Fire, man. I love every game in this series that I've played. The only one I haven't played is Dragon Quarter. I have played all the others and not beaten 4. Yeah. The best thing about these games is the cast of characters in all of them. They're so diverse. They are exactly what I love to see in old school RPGs. And quite frankly, if we could see them in new school RPGs, that'd be great too. Is new school a term? I don't even know. Newer RPGs? I love just like having just a fish guy and a dog guy and a human and then like a mermaid, and you know, it's like just, it's so neat to see such diversity in these games of all these different characters and races and everything, and I love that because it really, really makes each character feel unique and memorable. And I even the ones that I don't use very much when I'm playing the game, I still remember them because it was just so neat to look at the sprites and, you know, at least get a feel for their ability and that kind of thing. So I definitely recommend Breath of Fire. Breath of Fire 1 and 2 are both on the Switch, the yearly thing that you pay for, which I, like, again, I would love to see Secret of Evermore or Earthbound, that kind of thing on there too. But definitely Super Mario RPG, why is that not on there? But this is these are both on there, and I highly recommend both of them. They're also a little bit grindy, but nowhere near like Seventh Saga. Again, it's the cast that makes those games, and they're just so much fun. Next up is a game that, man, before I was a collector, I probably paid the most I've ever paid for a game for this, and it was $80 at the time, which I thought was a lot of money. I would love to have a box copy of it. That is Chrono Trigger. I hadn't played it. I had only seen screenshots. And again, this was one of those where I saw the cast of characters, saw the diversity, and I was like, oh my god, you get a robot and a frog and a like mechanic girl and like a princess, and like I was so excited to see all this stuff, and I was not disappointed when I played it. I got it, brought it home, popped it in. Like I said, I paid $80 for it, and I just adore this game. This is one of the best games I've ever played, still to this day. I just freaking cannot recommend Chrono Trigger enough. If you have a DS or a 3DS, the DS version of this game is easily the best version to get, because it has like some anime cutscenes and stuff, and just plays the best, and it's, you know, it's great on a portable system too. I cannot recommend Chrono Trigger enough. It is so dang good. Yeah, I would love to do. I want to do another playthrough of Chrono Cross at some point, and I'd love to do like a video like comparing the two and stuff. But easily, yeah, one of the best games I've ever played. Speaking of best games I've ever played, I'm almost at 400 subs, which is mind-blowing and awesome. If I can get to 500 though, I plan on doing a video series on my top 100 games of all time, which would take a while to do, but I think it'd be really cool to put together that list and then do a whole video series on that. So, something to shoot for. Hey. Next up is a game I actually just mentioned. That is Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. This game is so great! Man, I remember when I got it for Christmas, and my cousin Craig had come over, and he was watching me play it and stuff like that, and literally we would talk on the phone afterwards. I would call him up just to be like, hey dude, I got another star. You know, just to give him updates on where I was and stuff like that, just because Nintendo's games back then, and throwing Squaresoft into the mix, this game is so aesthetically pleasing, especially again with that diversity with the cast of characters, Geno, Mallow, Bowser, Princess, Mario. Like, I don't know why you didn't have Luigi as a party member. That's still weird to me to this day. But the cast you got was still great, and this is just an incredible game. Again, don't know why it's not on the Switch yet. It needs to be on there, because God, the Switch has such potential for these older games, and that platform where you pay the $20 a year and you get access to those older games. I don't know why they're throwing these obscure titles that nobody's ever heard of on there, because there's stuff like this that could just man, God, it's so good. It's so good. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, wonderful, wonderful game. I wish they would have kept going with that style and stuck with Squaresoft. I know there was some bad blood there, rather than going to the Paper Mario series. I get it, but I would have preferred more like this, in this style. Next is an RPG that I have not played, but I've heard very mixed reviews on, and that is Tecmo Secret of the Stars. I've watched a speedrun of it, and I was like, holy crap, I don't even know what's going on. But it is a turn-based RPG made by Tecmo, who did a lot of sports stuff, so I'm really curious to see what it's like and try it for myself. I love playing those games that like have really mixed reactions, and kind of like getting my own introduction and feedback on those. The box art is kind of horrendous, to be honest. They all have really weirdly shaped heads. I don't get it, but I will definitely try this at some point and give it a shot. And I'm excited to try it. Next, another game I did a whole video on, talked about earlier, and that is Final Fantasy II. One of my favorite games of all time, and the game that got me into RPGs. Without this, I would never have, maybe eventually at some point, but without this, I would never have gotten the desire to, play these other games like Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy III, Secret of Evermore, all that stuff. This was the one that, made me go, oh, Square made this. Squaresoft? Okay, I'm gonna look for them. And so that's, yeah, I've probably beaten this game more than any other game out there. I've beaten this game at least 20 to 30 times. And I'm still not tired of it. I love the cast of characters. I love each iteration. The only version that I haven't beaten is the DS version, but I've beaten all the other ones, even the sequel, the After Years. I could make a whole video on that. Yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I love that game so much. I will never get tired of playing it or talking about it, quite frankly. So yeah, Final Fantasy II is spectacular. And last, but certainly not least, in my loose collection, that is, it is Lufia 2: Rise of the Sinistrals. Honestly, like, this is a game you'll see a lot of speedrunners doing too, because it has the endless dungeon thing, where the deep dungeon, whatever it's called, I don't know. But it's like, this had so much going for it with regards to comparing it to other RPGs at the time, just because there was so much customization with I think you got like pets and your party members and just the story in general. It was such a step up from the previous game, which Lufia 1, I love. Quite frankly, I had more nostalgia for that one. I didn't get this one till way later on, but it was cool that they let you play the previous events leading up to Lufia 1, and that's what this is. So, and there's so much that happens that doesn't get mentioned in Lufia, which is just so neat. But definitely, if you ever get the chance and you're just looking for some classic RPGs, I know a lot of people know of this game, but I don't think enough people know about this game. So if you do get the opportunity to check it out and you like those Super Nintendo RPGs, Lufia 2, you cannot go wrong with. It is wonderful, and I would recommend it to anybody looking for any kind of experience that captures the magic of a game like Final Fantasy 2, 3, that kind of thing. So for sure, definitely check it out. Guys, that is my loose collection of Super Nintendo games. Next up, we've got a handful of box ones that I'm going to show you, and we will check that out in the next video. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. And as always, keep on gaming.